Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game that was played yesterday between world champion Magnus Carlsen and 14-year-old international master from Denmark, Jonas Buhl Bjerre. And it's a wonderful game. First, Magnus Carlsen held a simultaneous exhibition where he faced 24 opponents and he defeated all 24 with a perfect result, 24-0. And then he had a short exhibition match, 2 rapid games against this young gentleman here. So this is one of the games that we are going to show. Maybe I will show on the other one as well. So far I haven't decided, but before we check out this very nice game, I do have 2 very short announcements. First one is that not we actually, a friend of mine who is a developer for Android created this agadmator chess clock, and he said that he decided to take it up as a as a side project where he could, create something that he enjoys. So he created it. As you can see, it's available on Google Play Store, still unreleased as this is only a beta now. So if any of you are interested in, testing it out, it's completely free. It has no ads. It's very light, very quick. So it, he tried to make it as the best chess clock available on Android. So if you're interested in testing it out, giving us a few pointers, maybe it doesn't work as it should on your device, maybe this, maybe that, who knows. That's why apps are tested before they are fully released. So the first thing you will see in the description below is a link to the Google Play Store for the Android app for this agadmator chess clock. And also huge congratulations and thanks to Ivan Škorić for achieving this in very short record time. I think he completed it in under a month, and he also had some other very important business to do. But that being said, that's one part of the announcement. So I do hope some of you will be interested in helping us out with testing out this app. If you do, I do hope you enjoy it. And also, Magnus Carlsen is coming to Scotland. So if you are by any chance from Scotland, and if you are somewhere near the Lindors Abbey distillery where they make whiskey, you can follow this Chess Stars tournament. It will be, for now, the people that are confirmed are world champion Magnus Carlsen, as you can see, former world champion Viswanathan Anand, and 3 times Chinese chess champion Ndxe4. Neither, none of them need any introduction, but chess side makes one nevertheless. And since Sergei Karyakin was knocked out of the FIDE Grand Prix, I heard rumors that he might also be joining them here at this whiskey distillery. So if you are somewhere in the vicinity of that, maybe you can even check it out in person and send me some nice photos. But that being said, as we will be covering that short tournament, we still haven't covered a tournament played in a whiskey distillery. And might be nice if they were like maybe they have to have a shot of whiskey every 5 moves or something like that, just to make it more interesting. But I think we already discussed that, but we're gonna return to that in a few days as it starts in 2 days. So that being said, I will also put a link in the description below with a Chess24, a link to the website where you can check out all the games from the simultaneous exhibition and both of these games as well. Plus the live stream from the simultaneous exhibition if you're interested in that. But that being said, let's check out the game without further ado. So Jonas opens with the white pieces. He plays e4. We have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, going for the Ruy Lopez. We have a6, Morphy's defense, bishop to a4, g6 now, the fianchetto variation. We have castles by Jonas and bishop to g7. We have c3, and here d6 by Carlsen. Viswanathan Anand had this position against Sadhvani in last year's Isle of Men tournament where he played b5, and Anand was able to win that game, but Carlsen chooses a different line. We have d6, d4 now, bishop to d7, and now rook to e1 by white. Knight g to e7, and here comes d5. And here there are a few games in the database where knight to a5 was played, 4 games to be exact, and white won all 4 games, so not a move obviously you want to play. Knight b8 by Carlsen. We have bishop captures on d7, knight captures on d7, and now comes c4, just strengthening that pawn here. We have h6 by Carlsen, taking away this g5 square from the knight. Also, if, by any chance h4, h5 comes, g5 will be ready. We have knight to c3, Jonas continues development, and now Carlsen finally castles. We have rook to b1, preparing to further expand on the queen side, and now comes f5. Carlsen is ready to attack on the king side, and, a nice flank attack in the center. We have b4 by white, and now comes knight to f6 by Carlsen. And here there is one game in the database where a4 was played between Andrei Esipenko and Anton Demchenko in 2016, where black won the game. But here a4 isn't played. We have knight to d2, and it is as of this moment on move 15 that we have a completely new game. So it's Jonas who deviates from any known line. We have c6 by Carlsen, challenging white's strong center, and now bishop to b2. We have rook to c8, a nice move with the rook, as this c file is about to be opened very soon. Queen to b3, and now just c captures on d5. C captures on d5, and now b5. White, of course, doesn't want to have a backwards pawn either, so we have a4. And now comes queen to b6 by Carlsen. And here you have to decide what to do. a5 seems like a very nice idea, but after queen b7, you don't really have a good way of taking advantage of any of the squares that your pawns hold. I mean, it's very hard to imagine that any of your knights will be able to get any of these squares, since all of these squares here are covered. You can't really use them. So here, instead of pushing, we have a captures on b5 by Jonas, a captures on b5, and now just rook to a1. As the a file is now also an open file on the board, Jonas decides to grab hold of it. Maybe with ideas of rook a5, maybe followed by other rook comes to a1, and then, well, trying to do something with that. But first we have f captures on e4, and it's very interesting. There's an old saying in chess: to take is a mistake. If you don't gain anything by taking something, then just don't take it. So obviously Carlsen has something in mind by playing f captures on e4. What's the idea? Well, the idea is next. We have knight captures on d4, knight captures on d4, on e4, knight captures on e4, and now rook to c4. This is Magnus' idea. It's really a multi-purpose move. The rook now blocks the queen's defense towards the d5 pawn, so knight captures here is a threat. Also, there's pressure against the knight on e4. The knight is the only defender of the f2 pawn. Well, the king defends it as well, but that's of little help, as the rook and queen are eyeing that f2 pawn. So the real threat is just capturing the knight, and the queen captures on f2. So you do have to prevent it. Best way of defending this position is king to h1. And now, of course, if Carlsen is about to grab the pawn, then you can just play knight to d2, and this rook has nowhere to move where the rook can protect the knight. d4 is covered by the bishop, c5 is covered by the pawn. So here you would have to play queen c7, and, well, now you will be able to capture the knight. But it doesn't really do all that much for white, as Carlsen will have full compensation. 3 connected pass pawns in the center of the board are compensation enough for the exchange. After you move the queen, just knight to f4, and now you can just start pushing the pawns. It will be very dangerous. But it was the best course of action for white. Here, white plays queen to g3 with the idea, okay, now if Carlsen captures, I'm just going to capture this pawn, threaten to capture this guy here, knight f4, queen captures. This is the game white is trying to play. But Carlsen says, no thank you, I have a different idea. And it's really a nice idea, as for example, the engine on depth 23 doesn't see this move, but after we play this move, so if you had it set to a deeper depth, then the engine sees the move. So it's not all that easy to find. But I will ask you to pause the video here and try to find the winning move for Carlsen in this position. I'll give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations. You were an excellent lifter of the second rook as well. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, Carlsen's idea was rook to f4. And now you can see that there's so many attacks going towards this knight here. It's not all that easy to defend it. And if you move it, for example, let's say knight to d2, just attacking the rook, then you play rook captures on b4. And now that this pawn is eliminated, it's just going to be very hard to play this. Bishop c3, rook a4, let's say you trade here, and now you have this very, very strong passed pawn. You're going to eliminate the d5 pawn as well. You're going to start pushing your pawns, and it's just going to be an overwhelming position. White will not be able to hold. So here Jonas had tried a different idea. He played queen to d3, but we already said why this is a bad idea. But just for me to check if you were listening, feel free to pause the video and try to find the correct winning idea for Magnus here. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you were paying attention, I'll give you that. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, we removed the defender of the f2 pawn, so that's the idea. We have rook captures knight, rook c captures on e4, and we have rook captures on e4, so the f2 pawn is no longer guarded. Now comes queen captures on f2 with check, king to h1, and okay, now there's no checkmate because both the queen and the rook are guarding the f1 square, but you can just grab the bishop that is undefended on b2. So queen captures on b2, and now we have rook captures on f4. You have to play something. We have e captures on f4, although here, before even capturing the bishop, you know, I guess if Capablanca was playing this position, he would first capture the rook here, just because, you know, there's less to calculate, you know, makes sense. But Carlsen doesn't mind. He plays queen captures, and he just says, okay, you do whatever you want with your rook, I don't really care. We have rook captures on f4, and now there's really nothing to gain if you do this in between move. Queen captures on a1 with check, rook can just block, so you don't gain any more material. So here we have e captures on f4, now comes rook to e1, getting the rook out of harm's way, knight to f5, not allowing any nice rook lifts. Well, you could deliver this check, but there's no follow-up after king to h7. Queen captures on b5, Jonas still fighting, created a passed b pawn, he wants to start pushing it up the board. We have knight to e3, now checks with the rook are no longer possible. Queen check doesn't really do anything either, as now you also have to defend checkmate on g2. So queen to e2, defending checkmate, and also hoping to trade queens and start pushing his passed pawn. But now just queen captures on b5. On b4, Carlsen doesn't allow any counterplay. We have rook to c1, and now comes queen to e4. Again, constantly keeping pressure here. You could deliver this check, like I said, after king h7. Now you have to defend against any back rank mate threats, and also you have to defend against this mate threat. I might even use this as a thumbnail, who knows. Rook will have to go back, and really didn't achieve anything. You've only improved the position of the black king. So queen to f3, hoping to trade, but now Carlsen doesn't mind. Queen captures, we have g captures, and now bishop to e5, just solidifying in the center. Now the knight will eliminate this pawn, and well, it's just completely winning. Knight and bishop against the rook, being up 2 pawns. Sorry, 1 pawn, but soon to be 2 pawns. Here we have rook to c8 check, king to f7, and it was in this position after move 35, king to f7, that 14-year-old international master from Denmark, Jonas Bjerre, resigned the game. He resigned because we already mentioned why. There's no point in continuing after you give one more check. Let's say you can go king to f6, and now there's no defending the pawn, whatever you play, just knight captures. Now black is up 2 pawns, and of course bishop and the knight against the rook is completely winning. So he doesn't, he's not interested in continuing this game. So yeah, very nice game by world champion Magnus Carlsen, and you know, definitely it was a nice game by Jonas as well, but you know, it's hard to well, it wasn't easy to spot that rook to f4 move, really, especially since the engine also doesn't see it, at least on depth 23, as we already mentioned. So once again, if you're interested, do give us a hand with evaluating the agadmator chess clock. You know, any tip is more than welcome. You can comment on Google Play. There are comments available below, so you can do that, or you can send an email to Ivan, and then he will implement any changes that well, you recommend, if they are necessary. And also, like I said, if you are from Scotland, do check out the Chess Arts tournament in Lindores Abbey Distillery. So yeah, that's basically it. I do hope you enjoyed the game. I would like to thank Hartmut Gekkeler and Alexander Gilson for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Most likely continuing the FIDE Grand Prix 2019, but also checking up on your suggestions as usual. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.